Hello, my friends. I usually don't talk about any of my experiences on death row or anything. I like my message to pretty much stay about opening your third eye and meeting God. But I don't know, for some reason this Halloween I just feel like sharing a little bit. And I don't want to go too much in. I'm not going to go into my case at all. I just want to tell you a little bit about some of the surrounding circumstances of the case, or not even circumstances, just some things that happened along the way that was just super bizarre in itself. And just to give you a small taste of the horror that I went through. And, and to let you know, to give you some hope that, you can make it through these things. So what happened was when I was about 9 or 10 years old, my mom had sent me to the grocery store, and it was summertime, but it was late at night because I remember it being dark out. And I was walking home, and this man approached me and tried to get me to go with him, and I got away from him. And come to find out that this guy ended up being a serial killer, and he had killed a couple of little boys my age in my town. And come to find out, he had killed another boy before that, even in another state. And so they ended up catching him and finding him guilty and putting him on death row. And they were going to kill him with the electric chair. And I think it was like about, I don't know, in between 10 to 15 years later, they did ended up executing him. And it was in the summer, and they executed him. And then it was about, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe 4 months even after that, I was, and I forgot to mention that he was in the military. And so, and it was a big deal. It was not only because of what he did, but also, because he was in the military and he had done it in another state. And so, fast forward to a few months after he had been executed, I'm in the military and I'm in this other state. And all of a sudden I'm falsely accused of murdering someone back home. So they make that connection, like, oh, hey, he's just like that person that just got executed just a couple of months ago, and he's in this state and he was accused of killing someone back there and blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. And so, they blow up this huge connection. And this is so crazy. So I go through a whole year process of, trial and sentencing and all that. And I end up on death row. And I kid you not, I'm in this guy's cell, his old cell. I kid you not. And so I went from a kid almost being his victim to being in his old cell on death row like I was next in line or something. It was so wild, man. Just that alone was the whole thing messed my head up so bad. But that's just one little tiny aspect of the whole situation, man. I can't even really put it into words because there aren't enough words to use. Like surreal and nightmare and horrific, like that just doesn't do it justice, It's like trying to describe the hole. I spent half my time in the hole when I was on death row, and it's worse than the row. Obviously, it's the hole's obviously worse, and it's hard to even describe it in a way to even do it justice in a way that you could even imagine what it was like, because you're stripped of everything, but you're still alive. Like it's like being dead, but you're not. It's so weird. And you have nothing. You are nothing. And you have a Bible, and either you read it or you don't. That's all you have in there. And you're mine. And that kind of reminds me that that's kind of what I think God is. I think that God is a being that is alone in the void and has created this in its own mind just to have an experience. And something that reminds me of that is Joe Rogan was talking about this once. He said that he was in a deprivation tank and tripped out so hard that he ended up creating a whole world with like a whole world, language and cities and people and everything. And I've heard all kinds of different stories like that, where people have either done drugs or have been like knocked out or something, or been in a coma, and they have this experience that is so real, and then they come here, and this is real too. And so it just reminds me of that, and there's like just crazy stuffs and movies and stuff, and that just makes me think, like, if you were this being, even just a human, any being that had awareness, consciousness, and you're just existing in nothing, and there's no experience, eventually you would get lost in your own thoughts, right? And like, you'd be creative and you'd start imagining things, even if you are not able to do that now and like clearly see pictures in your head or be creative and stuff. You're part of the whole experience. So, that's okay, because the whole thing is creative itself, So, and we're all just like little nodes. It's like waves, and all of us are like the cross patterns, the little nodes, where the waves cross, and that's what we are. And we're each having our own little experience, but we're part of this one consciousness. And I said this, I think, in my last video. God is not just the consciousness. God is the whole thing, because the whole thing is in the mind of this being, right? And think about it. Like, I don't dream much these days. I used to have nightmares, and the VA, I'm a vet, so the VA gave me these pills one time for nightmares, and I haven't really had them since then, too much, thankfully. And plus, it's been a long time, so things kind of have gotten better in that regard. But when you dream, it seems super real, right? And there's often other people in the dream. So what about all them? Like, how did they get there? Who are they? Do they really exist? It's your consciousness. You're projecting that. You're projecting this too. This is just as real as that. So where's that person? That person to be there in that moment in your dream, they had to have millions of years of evolution and ancestors to be there in that moment, just like you did, right? Or did they just appear out of nowhere? Just poof. Oh, here I am. Hey, Bob, how's it going? Like an NPC or something? Are they real? Some of the dreams that I had, were so real. I still remember them clearly today. There's a couple that were really scary that I had when I was little, like 3 or 4, that I still remember, and I barely remember anything from that. I don't remember anything from then. So I don't know. So that's what I think it is. What do you think it is? Talk to me. You tell me. What do you think? What do you think all this is? What does it mean? What's your horror story? A lot of people have came to me, and I used to do public speaking about it. And tons of people have come up to me and just been like, oh, you're so inspiring, and just hearing your story and how you survived and stuff. And, I appreciate that. I do. And I can understand that. But, I walk outside and I'm walking down the street and I see this person all like handicapped and, trying to get through life and stuff. And you're just like, dude, what I went through is absolutely nothing. It's nothing. And, at the time it was just so horrific. And, I still have mental health issues over it. Even with all of this, third eye awakening and stuff. And, and that, let me tell you this too about third eye awakening and your Kundalini and you're working on yourself. Honestly, this is the best therapy thing that I've ever had. Dude. I've been in so much therapy, so much. It's crazy. And nothing, workbooks, counseling, all of it, nothing has ever helped me more than going down this path of spiritual awakening and meeting God. And, people forget that the Bible and Christianity and spirituality and all these different religions are all related. And people are resistant. They're like, oh, they're trying to make one world religion. Well, that's because religions is all to one world. It's all trying to tell you the same thing. And it's not just Christ consciousness. I harp on this physical thing inside your body, but it's all of it together, right? And I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I kind of lost my train of thought, but I just keep thinking the world needs God, and we're just so far away from it right now. It's so crazy, and people don't get it, man. And people just whine and cry about the lamest stuff, man, and they don't even know what it's like to really suffer, and they're so ungrateful and disconnected from God, and like you're all about matter, like you don't have to be some kind of crazy Satanist to be a Satanist. Most people are Satanists and don't even realize it because you are all about matter. And that's what Satan is. Satan is matter. Satan isn't some evil being with horns coming after you. That's just not real. It's not. Satan is matter. So what's happening, and you just look around and you can see it, is that everyone's about the world, about material things. And, and they've hijacked it. I was thinking you hear it all the time, mind, body, and soul. But people don't understand what that means. They don't understand that soul is energy. It's mind, consciousness, soul, energy, light, and what is light doing? It's moving, right? Light moves. Everything moves. Reality moves. It's not stagnant. Time is not stagnant. Nothing's stagnant. Reality moves. And then body is matter. And so we're saying the words, but we're not fully comprehending what they mean and how to work with it, right? So that's the equation, and that's what we're missing. Is people are not fully connected to the whole equation. So you got to connect to consciousness. It's not like I said earlier, it's not higher consciousness, not Christ consciousness, because you're already conscious. It's just the larger field, right? Like, it's equal to you. It's not greater than you because you are it, right? So saying it's higher is incorrect. It's not your higher consciousness. You are just disconnected in a different way. Like, you know what I mean? Does that even make any sense? We're just disconnected. We're just out of tune a little bit. That's what it is. It's like we're a radio station, the old school ones where you had to dial it in, and it's a little staticky. You know, that's kind of what it is. And we're fine tuning it to get a clear signal. And people act like consciousness and energy are not, like, you don't have to do anything with them or something. You have to, you eat to nurture your matter body. But people don't do anything for the energy and the consciousness. And that's part of the fucking equation, man. Like, what? I'm sorry to cuss, but I just don't understand why people are so resistant to that. They're like consciousness proves I'm alive, but it's not part of the equation. And he was like, what, dude? Like, look, it is. It is. And you have to nurture it. And you have to nurture the energy, right? So that's what, like, doing the yoga and the meditating and the breath work and all that stuff is, and your nutrients and stuff, that's the energy part, right? And the matter. Some of it's the matter also. And you're in this technique where you're partaking of these fluids in your body from these glands, right? So that's the matter part in your body. And you're fine-tuning the energy and the body, but then nobody's working on the consciousness. And people are like, oh, I'm doing Dark Night of the Soul, but you're not doing anything, though. What are you doing? Like, specifically, what are you doing? What? You're working on your root chakra. What are you doing? Rubbing your feet? What are you doing? You're working on your heart chakra. What are you doing? Are you going out and doing charity? Or what? What are you doing to work on your throat chakra? Do you even know what that is? And so that's what, you got to kind of get through some of this nonsense, because that's what that is. There's a pump, right? And that's, I'm always harping that the chakras are pumps, these physical pumps for this physical fluid in your body, right? But you have to work on your consciousness. Okay, so Dark Night of the Soul is something that you're going to go through. I've said this many times before. You're going to have a crazy Dark Night of the Soul experience after you really have a Kundalini experience. The real Kundalini, not the fake, touched my forehead, I became self-aware BS. All right, I'm talking about the internal DMT, trip out, meet God experience. Once you have that, after that, you're going to go through Dark Night of the Soul. Okay, all on your own. But before that, you need to work on yourself. You need to work on your consciousness. And that means working on your thoughts. So let me give you an example. My son, I have a couple different sons, but my middle son has a lot of issues. He's got a lot of health issues, and he's got some mental health issues and stuff going on. He's got a lot of disabilities. And so he talks to himself out loud. And so we can all hear it. It's kind of crazy. But because we all talk to ourselves, right? So we can hear him, and he's talking about these situations at school where he's being harassed, and he's playing these roles out in his head of what he wants to do and wants to say. And he knows he can't do that. He knows they're wrong, and he's not going to. But he's angry and he's upset and he's hurt. And so he wants to act out, and he wants to hurt them back, right? And he wants to hurt them physically. And so we can hear these conversations take place. And people, like, that's what we do. We role play these things in our head, and you can control that, right? And we think about things and we dwell on things. And, Tom said this to me the other day, and I should have said this and back to him, and just, and we get stuck on things, stuck on stupid, and you have to force yourself, mind control. You have to That's why people don't like this path, because the real path, you have to do real work and you have to put forth effort. If you don't, you're not doing anything. You're faking it, which most people are, because they don't want to do this. But look, you have to force yourself. You have to gain control of your mind. You have to. A huge thing for men is to quit masturbating. You have to gain control of your mind and your body. You have to. If you cannot do those simple things in life, I don't know what to tell you. If you don't want to, then you have to acknowledge that you will always be a slave to the system. And let me talk about that too, because people are always like, "Oh, you haven't escaped. You're still in the matrix." Dude, we're all in the matrix. Where's the free land? There is no free land, right? We will always have to pay, unless there's some crazy catastrophe. We'll always have to pay for life to live here, right? No one's escaping that. That's not, the only way out of that is death, and that's not escaping the matrix. That's just getting regurgitated. So you have to work on your mind. And, that kind of takes me to that stuff with death row and being in the hole. What got me through that a lot, of course, is like reading the Bible and thinking about that and praying and stuff. But it was my mind, because you're lost in your mind. And, it's one of those things, maybe you've heard that, if you can't stand yourself for 5 minutes, you need to change yourself. If you can't stand being alone with yourself. And in a situation like that, you have to be alone with yourself. You're forced to, for long periods of time. So it forces you to see yourself in a different way than most people do. Most people see themselves in a really shallow way, and you don't have that opportunity to even get to know yourself on that deep of a level. And that's kind of what it is. Most people are just stuck on this shallow level with their own self. And a true awakening forces you to look at yourself. And that's really what it all is a mirror. Because there's nobody else here. There's no one else here. We're all just little pieces of one being. There's no one else here. We're all just like little pieces of mirror reflecting back at each other, right? So, and if we don't bring consciousness and awareness back into the equation, back into civilization, back into life, and acknowledge that reality is alive and God is alive and we have free will. I'm in my 50s and I grew up in America, and we're told that we're free. We're not free. If anybody has any authority over you at all, then you're not free. If a cop can come and arrest you or give you a ticket or take your children or force you to take something or control your food or whatever, you're not free. You can own your home, but you don't pay taxes, they'll come take it. So you don't own it. You're not free either. If anyone has any type of authority over you, that's not free. And people can't even grasp that. The only person or the only thing or being that gives you true freedom is God. People want to blame God and blame the devil instead of taking responsibility for themselves and society. Oh, the devil made him do it. No, he's just an asshole. He has no self-control. I talk to my boys all the time about self-control, mind control. You have to have control over yourself. And that's what people lack. When people are like acting out in public, what is that? It's lack of control. Whether they're doing it consciously, unconsciously, whether they were taught that or not taught how to act differently, that could all be a part of it. But we all have choices to make in this life, and it's kind of crazy because there's this old movie called Kroll. It was a horrible movie, but there's this Cyclops in there, and the Cyclops, they ask him like, "Wow, how come you only have one eye?" And he says something like, "We traded our eye to the gods so that we could see the future, but we were tricked because the only future we could see is our own death." And that's kind of like we are. Like, we're conscious and we're aware, but really all we can see right now is our own death. And there's so much more. There's so much more to see, man. It is so wild what there is out there. But if we don't bring the preservation of life and love and God and stuff like that back into civilization, we're cooked. And this is the moment, because we're either going to turn into robots or we're going to turn to God. And I think if we turn into robots, we're going to forget God. And we're going to forget that reality is alive and that we're a part of it. And I don't know. I don't know what's driving that. There's a lot of things that are against technology and stuff. And to me, technology is super weird. I don't understand how some things in the dirt, we can just put them together and I can talk to you. It's almost like telepathy, but it's with technology, right? And like they say, technology will become so advanced it'll seem like magic. And I'm sure that's already out there. You have to realize why we're being kept like this. And it all has to do with that Kundalini awakening stuff and the Chrism oil. Think about it. If you are, say you were walking down the street and you came across this little animal and you picked it up and you took it home and you found out somehow that this animal had like a rejuvenating fluid in it, you'd want to get that out of the animal and take it yourself to rejuvenate. And so if you came across a civilization that was advanced and doing all these crazy stuff with their minds and their bodies and had all this crazy technology, and if you could destroy that and knock them down to living in the dirt again, and then keep them as cattle and harvest that fluid for yourself, and then keep them ignorant of it, it seems like that's what's going on today. And that fluid helps us connect to the consciousness part of the equation. So it's all connected. See? And you don't have to partake of the fluid to connect to the consciousness. But it helps. It definitely helps. I got that crazy download last time, so it definitely helps. But again, you are already a part of it. It's just more, right? It's not like a higher consciousness. It's just expanded. Does that make sense? And you're in tune, because it's not just the consciousness, it's the body part also inside, and it's the energy, because you're doing the meditations and the breathing and all that stuff, and you're working on your mind, right? So work on those thoughts and work on connecting to consciousness. And when you meditate on God. God is real. God is alive. I swear to you. And I'm trying to show you how to have that experience so that you can experience God too. So you don't have to just have this empty belief or whatever it is. I don't know. But for me personally, I had to know. And I'm so grateful that I had that experience. I do know. And I just want to share that with you so that you can know too. So you don't have to just believe. You can know. So anyways, I'm starting to ramble. I love you, my friends. I will talk to you again soon. Happy Halloween. Hang in there. Love you.